American companies coming to China are all scared to death of corruption and of violating the American Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And they feel they encounter a culture of corruption, a culture of payoffs, and not just with private individuals, but with government officials.
Okay.
Is that the nature of China today and the China business environment?
Well, because of the cultural differences, the understanding into corruption can vary to a large extent. For example, gift exchange has always been regarded as a virtue in China because it's a respect to people.
Not as corruption, but a virtue.
Very much a virtue, and otherwise, people think that they are dealing with a machine. And I think this is, even if I'm sitting across a culture, I'm traveling across different cultures, I still regard it as a virtue because business is for the people and by the people. And those people who are in the front line, if they do not have a personal touch of relationship among the counterparts they have been dealing with,
But
they are not motivated.
I understand, but there's a fine line between having a friend and building a relationship and a friendship and corruption. Because the fact that you and I share gifts back and forth, when I have a contract to let, presumably I will try to make that available to you because I hope for business from you later on. Isn't that the definition of corruption?
Well, that's true though. I think now it is there. Corruption, I can say, is a tool. Let's do not put the ethical value on it yet, but it is a way of doing business, but much at the choice of any of the counterparts, because you always have the right and you always have the bottom line to say no. So therefore, if you really are strong in your technology, if you really are strong in your cost structure and it becomes attractive, then you won't really yield to temptation.
So this is a problem for companies that aren't as competitive, aren't as superior. So a U.S. or a Western company that really has superior products, superior process, superior ability to contract is not going to have as much of a problem with corruption.
Because corruption is really considered to be an investment on those who offer that. They don't corrupt you for simply for friendship.
So the challenge is to keep this as gift-giving that doesn't contaminate the decision-making, as simply courtesy and friendship building, such as we might take people to dinner.
That's right. I think the line is not really difficult to draw. So you go wining and dining, Chinese people bring you to the banquet so often, and there may be very substantial negotiation during dinner tables, but that's different culture and business culture and style. It doesn't mean that afterwards you
have to pass cash.
That you have to pass cash or accept the girl that is that offered to you.
What about government officials? There's a lot of concern with local party officials or local government officials who can hold up approvals or hold up business arrangements because of the power that they have. Is that an inevitable part of doing business in China?
That's a rampant part, but it can be avoidable in that because dealing business, you involve a number of stakeholders. The government is part of that. There is also part of the effort on the business side that how do you manage expectation of different stakeholders. I had a conversation with one of the Chinese government official who's dealing with approval of foreign drug application in China. They said, with experience, we learned that a U.S. business is difficult to crack in terms of the unfair profit for personal gain, simply because they later on learned they have FCPA available.
So the U.S. companies should use the power of the FCPA as a backup and just say, we cannot make.
That's right.
That
That's dictated by law. This is the strong argument, simply to put an end to this controversial discussion.
I have to say, in talking with some of your students and some of my students in China, they are as bothered about the bribery that is expected of companies. And of course, some of them don't have the FCPA behind them as a power.
Well, for that, I see it differently, because after all, bribery is a cost for those who get engaged into it. And this cost will eventually be shared on both sides. And normally it is the one that receives the bribe who is going to pay a bigger cost. And on the other side, that even though for those who are used to cut corners, for example, one of the European companies who are not really subject to such sort of corruption act, even if they get a contract, because they have been spending a lot of money on the cutting corners, and they have less really investment for real hard technologies. So in the end, they come to you. As for a U.S. company, a cleaner hand, but more investment into the right direction, and you can bargain with them as a middleman, and or in the end, because of their unethical conduct, you can simply kick them off and work directly and simply restart the contract.
The costs of corruption fall on the company that pays.
That's right.
Because they are no longer as competitive for the future, because they haven't invested in better processes and efficiencies. And the cost also falls on China or the country, because it holds back development if the products are more expensive, if that holds back the level of development and the rate of development.
Yeah, so in the end, you see numerous cases that those who wanted to cut corners through corruption, to take shortcuts, in the end, most of them will end up digging their own cemeteries. Probably can bury both of the partners.
Thank you very much, Liu.